Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. Today our topic is no money down, investing with other people's money. And this is part 4 of our 4-part series. Part 4 is called Condition Credit.
Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast with Scott Whitwam, your blueprint to financial abundance. Settle in as we explore the mindset and methods for wealth building through real estate.
Welcome back to our No Money Down Real Estate Investing podcast. I'm Scott Whitwam, and today we're discussing another little known, no money down real estate investing option called Condition Credit. Let's see how we can use other people's money to leverage our real estate investing. So what is Condition Credit? A condition credit is where a seller agrees to provide a concession, and in this case, monetary reduction or offset to an investor due to the condition of the property. Condition credits are very common in all real estate transactions. Someone makes an offer on a home to live in, and during the inspection finds that the roof needs to be replaced. The seller, instead of replacing the roof, will give a condition credit or concessions to a buyer in some amount that is negotiated between the parties. So the condition of the credit itself is not anything out of the ordinary. Condition credits are pretty common. What our goal is as a savvy real estate investor is to use that credit to cover the cost of any down payment that may be necessary to leverage the property. This way, we can purchase the property with no money down. Let's talk about the mechanics of how this condition credit can work. First, the condition credit method works best if you're making a compelling offer. A compelling offer uses data and logic. For example, here's what I found that does not work. Let's say that we have a property that has a $300,000 ARV, or at least the Zillow value says it's $300,000. And this is a conversation that I have. So me, Mr. Seller, I'd like to buy your house. I will give you $175,000 and $25,000 condition credit. So you'll get $150,000 at closing. Seller, the house is worth $300,000. You're crazy. I would never sell the house for that. Not for what you're offering. Why? Because I didn't make a compelling offer. That's why the seller doesn't want to sell me the house. There was nothing compelling in my offer. It was a bottom feeder offer. It was just saying, hey, you got a house that's worth $300,000. It needs work. I'll give you $150,000 for it under this method. And sometimes it works. I will tell you that there are sometimes you run into a desperate person and he goes, yeah, I've been waiting for somebody like you to come by. But again, we're trying to do this with no money down. So we have to make a compelling offer using data and logic so that they understand what it is that we're asking of them. But let's go through the process of making a compelling offer. First, you need to build rapport. Connect with a seller. Find some common ground to build on. If you know the seller's a Cubs fan, then talk about Cubs baseball, even if you're a White Sox fan. If the person's into dogs, don't talk about all your cats. Talk about dogs. You got to build rapport. You've got to connect with the seller. You're not lying to them. You're finding things that they those things that they enjoy, and you are being interested in what they know something about. Then we need to know our numbers. That would be number 2. Number 1, you got to build rapport. Number 2, you got to know your numbers because you need to lead with facts. If you're in person, I take printed copies of comps with me that support the offer that I'm going to make that'd be very compelling. If you're on the phone or you're using video, you can email or screen share. And we'll be discussing some of these a little bit later when we're talking about the process. But you want to deal with facts, and you want them to have facts that help to compel them into seeing things your way. Number 3, identify the repairs. Use an inspection form. Logically list out repairs that are needed. You don't have to be a contractor or home inspector. If you use the right tool, any sales agent can do this. You need to inspect the property thoroughly, take pictures, and estimate costs of necessary repairs. And number 4, make a compelling offer. Again, with data and logic. And number 5, negotiate with the seller. Discuss the repairs. Show the sellers what repairs need to be done. Negotiate the credit that you're asking for that would cover the estimate that you put together. Get them on board with you. And then let's have this conversation. Let's do an example conversation with a seller using this method. So let's say that we have a property that has a $300,000 ARV, or at least that's what Zillow says that it's worth also. Okay, so me, Mr. Seller, I'd like to buy your house. I know this house means a lot to you with all the memories, and I want to get you the most amount of money I can. Does that sound good? Seller, what are you thinking? Me, thanks for showing me around your property. As I pointed out, there's some issues, and I noticed a few things. Let me be straight with you. Your home is if it was in fully remodeled condition, what we would call after repair value is worth $300,000. But let me show you homes that sold for that amount. And then you're going to take and show them homes that sold for $300,000 that were gorgeous. And then you go on. I also brought some comps for some homes and some pictures of homes that needed repair that sold in your area. They're just like yours, and you can see they sold for around $150,000 to $175,000. I have this estimate that I wrote up of what I think it'll cost to remodel your home, so that it could be sold for $300,000. And me, I would show him my repair form, and then I would say, does that make sense? Seller, yeah, I didn't realize it was that expensive to do those repairs. Me, yes, everything costs more now. So if you hired a contractor and gave them $80,000 and paid them from your savings, you may be able to get $300,000 retail price for this house months from now. But don't forget, you'll still have expenses. And after all your expenses, you're probably going to end up with $260,000 to $270,000. You got to subtract out the $80,000 that you've invested, and then you're going to end up with between $180,000 and $190,000. Does that make sense? Seller, yeah, I can see that. Me, are you in a place to put up $80,000, deal with the process, deal with the contractors, and wait months before you can even put your house on the market? Seller, no, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't sound like what I could do. So are you telling me you're offering me $190,000? Me, well, let's take the $270,000 and subtract out $80,000. And I have to make some profit for taking the time, taking the risk, paying you cash for the house, and putting up the $80,000. Does that make sense? Seller, yes. How much profit and how much will I get? Me, to cover my closing costs and the profit, we would need to be around $175,000. Seller, I get often a couple different answers. So here's a seller answer. Hey, that sounds acceptable. How soon can we close? And I get that a lot. The other one is, I really need a little more. Is there anything you can do? And this is where we need to know the numbers. But I always come back and say, the other one that I get is, some big company, and I throw this in, that won't keep their word and will renegotiate the deal they offered to me and make this an absolute misery, offered me a little less money. So this is a competing offer, and I want to use logic and make sure that this works. So when I get those different responses, I have something to overcome. I can always say, hey, let me call the office and see if we can go any higher on this. I don't know that we can. And I put pressure on hey, can you get me a little bit more money? And there's times when I can. I mean, there's times when we know we've got margin in this. We may be doing this as a buy and hold, so our repair costs may not be the full 80. There may be some things that need to be done, but we're going to defer those out for a few years, like a roof that may have 5 to 10 years left in it. We may wait 5 years to do that, but I'm going to ask for that in my offer sheet. And when they come at me with another company that's offered them more money, I'm going to go over the stories that I've heard from my other clients that, about that, how likely it is they're going to renegotiate the deal, how likely they are going to be to ask for additional closing cost credits and other forms. I make my offer compelling. And then I just need to write up the offer so that the final net to the seller works. And you do that by just working the math backwards. So I always start with, what their net is, and then I add on what the closing cost credit I'm going to need. So to secure financing, this is how I recommend that you work with your private funder or hard money lender that'll lend the purchase price and at value, right? Because if the after repaired value, let's say, is $300,000, and the current as is value, let's say, is $250,000, the lender will loan $175,000. Your purchase needs to cover that required down 10%, 20 or 30%. So in a case of a property that's worth $250,000, a lender would my lender would loan me $175,000, 20%. Most of the lenders that I work, most of the hard money lenders I work with are at 20%. And I know they're all over the place, and your preferred lender may be different. You may need to work out something with them. But I would write the contract for $225,000 and a $50,000 condition credit and borrow $175,000 and have no money down. And once you get the funding set, then you do a thorough inspection. Hire a professional home inspector or have your contractor provide a detailed report for you. I'm generally only looking for high-ticket items, as I've already negotiated the repair deal when I first wrote the contract. If there is a high-ticket deal, I'll go back to the seller and go, this is obviously something. You said the air conditioner worked good, but, I just had the air conditioner checked, and this thing is on its last leg. And I'll renegotiate those type of things. But if I find, a faucet that's broken or a toilet that needs to, have a seal repair, I'm not negotiating those deals because I've already negotiated those up front. That's the reason for going through and doing the home inspection. I close the deal, and at closing, the credit amount, the closing cost credit I'm getting for repairs is applied towards my down payment, reducing the amount of cash at closing that I need and making it so I have no money down in the deal. The only real drawbacks that can have with sellers on this, as far as sellers' resistance, is they may be hesitant to offer you a condition credit. Let me give you just a little bit of an example. I had a deal that we did over across town in another town, and it was referred to me by a law firm, and the people that owned it were two lawyers from another state. And I presented the deal, and they couldn't understand it. They said they wanted the deal to be absolutely clean. They did not want to do the condition credit. And, and so on that deal, we ended up paying cash for the property because the deal outweighed it. I couldn't get the seller to understand the condition credit and how it worked. I had the hard money all lined up. I had the deal all lined up. I had everything lined up, but I couldn't get the seller on board. And sometimes that happens. You just got to be aware that sometimes when you get done making your pitch and you use, a proper, logical conclusion to things, you make a compelling offer, you're going to get a no. And so if the deal makes sense, if they're still willing to sell at the right price, then we find an alternative. Condition credits can be a valuable, no money down strategy for real estate investors. By understanding the concept and all of the benefits and knowing the limitations, you can effectively negotiate with sellers and secure financing to purchase these properties with no money down. That's all the time we have for today's episode. I want to thank you for joining me on this episode. If you found the episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. This has been Scott Whitwam. Be sure to join our next episode of the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast with the mindsets and methods for wealth building through real estate.